Hello, everybody, both here in Brussels and also through Zoom. I thank very warmly KBR for giving me the opportunity to present a few words about the BnF experience on ISNI, more focused on our experience as a registration agency. Just to say you that we want to use ISNI as a tool for facilitating, for making more systematic data flows, data exchanges with cultural industry and between cultural industry and the National Library. Concretely speaking, thanks to ISNI, we aim at concluding, I would say, a win-win solution with cultural industry to build with it a shared vision of data quality, data exchange based on the common use on these international identifiers. We aimed also at strengthening the role of the National Library within the national-wide data ecosystem, and also to offer to cultural industry new opportunities to benefit from BnF data associated to our core missions, to the core missions of the National Library associated to the legal deposit, and to enlarge the scope and to facilitate the process of legal deposit. Next slide, please. So, we are facing with some challenges today. From the BnF side, I would say that on a global perspective, within the past decade, we have developed a systematic policy of opening, leading to an increasing, strong growing of the number of resources that fall into the scope of legal deposit. We have a technical opening by having put data on the road of the internet end users by using the link open data technology. It was data.bnf.fr 11 years ago. We had also a legal opening with an open data license, and also an opening of the legal deposit scope and of the legal deposit processes by using Onyx streams coming from the book supply chain. And we have developed a new interface facilitating the data exchange between the book supply chain, the publishers, the distributors, and the National Library. And nowadays, the Onyx streams represent something like 30% of the whole legal deposit, of the whole resources falling into the scope of the legal deposit. And also, we are making legal deposit for digital resources more systematic. In France, we had a law adopted in 2006, which allows legal deposit for all resources, both physical and digital. But however, actually, the collection of the digital content, the paid-for digital content, remains challenging. And it was last year, in 2021, that a new law make it clear that the paid-for content, digital content, falls into the legal deposit, and this new law gives us the great opportunity to extend the scope of legal deposit and to offer to cultural industry new possibilities of interaction between them and us. Next slides, please. In the meantime, our staffs and resources are not growing, I would say. So it gives us a challenge, and two main challenges, I would say. The first one is how to concretely implement this broader scope of legal deposit, how to make promises of broadening the legal deposit real? And the second question is how to cover the increasing number of resources falling into the scope of the legal deposit. Next slide, please. So we chose to take advantage for an international shared cross-domain identifier as ISNI is. And BnF published in 2020 its identifier policy, making it clear our strategy regarding identifiers, how to use them, what is the special responsibility of the National Library on the identifiers, and what we are using identifiers for. And we have also chosen to not develop a separate data flow, but to integrate the data flow associated to ISNIs and associated to data exchange with book supply chain into the traditional cataloging data flow, I would say. In other words, to open our catalog to data coming from book supply chain and cultural industry on the one hand, and to open our catalog to the ISNI and to the ISNI international basis on the other hand. Next slide, please. So just to show you in a few words what is the data flow for book in France. Next slide, please. So we have publishers who describe books and assign ISBN. Next slide, please. The previous slide, please. So, and next. Yes, thank you. And we have after that the diffusers who integrates metadata into their system and add marketing-related metadata. Next slide, please. And we have also distributor, and they declare the book into the national FERL, fichier exhaustif de livre, comprehensive book file, literally speaking. Next slide, please. And publishers, distributors control and standardize metadata and manage shipping and billing data. Next slide, please. So this metadata coming from the book supply chain and publishers industry come to the National Library database. So this data flow allows that this kind of metadata comes to BnF at the end of the processes covered by the book supply chain. Next slide, please. Next slide. So yes, it's an update of metadata through this data flow. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So, and here's the role of the National Library in the circulation of the metadata within the book chain. So the BnF catalogers check the metadata received from the book supply chain and check them and complete them according to the bibliographic standards we are using at the National Library, and they set up the national bibliography, and BnF disseminates this data through all the end users we have, the end users who are using data from National Library. I mean bookshops, I mean other libraries, and I mean all the end users who are interested in doing this. Next slide, please. So we have to create common practices and to ensure how good this data flow is working in order to create consistency within the whole data flow between the book supply chain and the National Library. So on a general perspective, BnF is working with the CLIL, International Liaison Committee for Books, to recommend best practices in structuring metadata, in ONIX data flows, and on ISNI. So book supply chains has adopted best practices, guidelines for best practices, making them clear that they have to use and to disseminate ISNI. And or a more specific perspective, BnF is working directly with some distributor or diffuser to disseminate ISNI in their own database, for instance, Hachette, Interforum, and other publishers and distributors as L'Harmattan and so on. Next slide, please. So how does it work? Publishers or distributors make a declaration, a legal deposit declaration in ONIX, and through a specific tool BnF has developed, ISNI demand, literally asking for an ISNI. ISNI demand allows to associate information sent by the publishers and distributors to an authority record which already exists, or to wait for the cataloging process, internal cataloging process by the National Library if a new authority record has to be created. And this data is sent on a weekly basis by the National Library to the ISNI International Database to assign ISNI. And the ISNI International Database say to BnF, hello, we have assigned an ISNI to your updated or new authority record, so it's the way back. The ISNI database notifies BnF. BnF incorporates ISNIs in the authority file, and BnF sends back the ISNI, the newly assigned ISNI, to the publishers or distributors' databases. So this whole data flows takes around 10 days, I would say. Next slide, please. So it's just a string copy of ISNI demand or internal tool. And you can say the name of authors sent by publishers or distributors, and the status of internal processes. And here is another screen copy for one particular, sorry, next slide, please. Yes. Yeah, thank you. For one particular authors, and you can see, for instance, that on the right side, that they have maybe 2 authority records, which may correspond to the authors sent by the publisher. So we have to check it if it is a duplicate or an homonym. So, next slide, please. So some figure about ISNI nowadays in publishers' data. These processes I've just described represent nowadays something like 25% of the whole French legal deposit for books and e-books. And these tables, this figure shows 2 interesting facts. The first one, when you say that, for instance, for Hachette Livre has today 52% of their authors covered by ISNI, but Hachette Livre had 0% of authors covered by ISNI in 2016. So it shows how this process is working. So, and the good result we have obtained. And next slide, please. Yes, and these three actors, three publishers or distributors, it is interesting to see this because these distributors or publishers are devoted to self-publishing sector. So it represents new or little known authors. So this data flows is not only interesting for big players or for very well-known authors, but also for smaller players and not so well-known authors. Next slide, please. So today in BnF catalog, we have 80% of our authority file for persons covered by ISNI and only less than 20% for organizations. The processes I have shown is working only for the moment, only for names of persons, but not yet for organizations, because we have to develop mapping between ONIX and or MARC working format on the one hand, and or MARC format and the ISNI XML format on the other hand. And there are also some questions to be solved regarding ISNI and organizations, as Tim has just explained in this previous talk. Next slide, please. So it allows us to create a virtuous circle. We are having many talks with the book supply chain on stressing the importance of data quality, on stressing, for instance, the necessity for them to provide us bibliographic date or ISBN or EAN of previous titles to make this request process more easier. We are leading an analysis of the ONIX data quality of each publisher, send them regular reports, and we are holding with them regular meetings also. And also we make some proposals to correct erroneous data to publishers. So we have reached concrete outcomes. So now, for instance, in Interforum and Hachette Livre have improved the scope of data they are providing us. And so it allows to make some evolutions of the ISNI flow sent to BnF. Next slide, please. So, what is our to-do list tomorrow, today and tomorrow? The first one is an internal issue, is to create automatic link between bibliographic records and authority records using ISNI, for instance. If an BnF authority record has already an ISNI, to create automatically a link with the bibliographic record, which is produced by the data sent by publishers, so and mostly for printing books and e-books. And the second task we intend to do, it is in the next slide. It's regards musical industry. So the 2021 law for legal deposit gives us new opportunities for extending this program of assignation of ISNI to a digital resource, especially for musical industry. We have also a project, it is called Legal Deposit for Digital Sounds. We have already launched work with Kantar Media, which is managing a database for artists in DDEX, not in Onyx, but in DDEX. So we are making a mapping and some works on the DDEX data coming from Kantar Media. But the issue for us is that, globally speaking, the landscape for digital content and other cultural industry, such as music, video games, is a little bit more scattered than the one for book and ebook. So we have to lead some discussion to reach more structuring practices, because their structuring practices are slightly different. So, and there is no interprofessional players, so as they exist for books and ebooks. So it is a key task for us to go further in this direction, to allow to cultural industry, especially to music industry, to benefit from the interaction with the National Library, as we has already done with the book supply chain. So next slide, please. Thank you.